Welcome to the regular Brattleboro Selectboard meeting of March 24th. I'm John. I asked you earlier, was the meeting properly warned?
Yes, Oscar, it was.
Thank you. The board entered into executive session at 5:15 and no decisions were made. Board, are there any adjustments to the agenda today?
No.
Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from March 5th and March 10th.
Thank you. Amanda has made a motion to approve the minutes of March 5th and March 10th. All those in favor of that motion, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
That's 5-0. Yes. Okay, great. Chair's remarks. I don't have many. Just to welcome you all, this is the second regular meeting of this new board. I'm going to briefly remind everyone of the rules and procedures that we've agreed upon, particularly if you're new to the meeting. Members of the public are always welcome. There will be points at the meeting and at each agenda item for public participation. When that happens, I'll let you know. And then if you're interested in speaking, please raise your hand. If you're on Zoom, there's a raise hand feature that you can use. Seth will be keeping an eye on it, and I will recognize you as well. When I recognize you, if you're in the room, please come to the mic and speak directly into it so that BCTV and the people watching at home can hear you. And we did adopt a new rule at our last meeting that I'm sure will take a little getting used to for all of us, but everyone has 3 minutes to speak for their first comment, and then for their second comment on a topic, we're doing 1 minute. Other than that, I'm looking forward to the meeting, and I will turn it over to the board. Anyone on the board would like to make a comment? I'll turn it over to John for manager's comments. John?
I just have a few quick things this afternoon. So 2026 dog licenses are available either through the online portal that can be accessed through the town's website, brattleboro.gov, or by going to the town clerk's office. All renewals are due by April 1st. All dog owners should have either received an email or a notice in the mail with instructions for renewing their dog licenses. The annual town reports are ready for pickup at the Brooks Memorial Library and at the town clerk's office. Staff are also working on an addendum with a new warning that should be available at the library by April 3rd. The informational meeting for the town meeting is on Wednesday, April 8th at 7 p.m. at the middle school multipurpose room, and the annual town meeting is the following Saturday, April 11th at 8:30 a.m. at the high school gym. That's it.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Select board comments. Isaac, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I wrote some words here. Members of our Brattleboro community have reached out to me recently about events in South Burlington that have raised questions about the role of local police during immigration and customs enforcement operations. Yesterday, I spoke with our Brattleboro town manager and with the assistant police chief, and both confirmed that the Brattleboro Police Department follows the state's model, fair, and impartial policing policy. Our police force is trained on this policy at the police academy, and I'm fully confident in their ability to follow this policy, which is now available in 15 languages through the Brattleboro Town website. I have requested this policy, which governs the Brattleboro Police Department collaboration with federal agents, be placed on an upcoming select board meeting agenda for our review and discussion. On a related note, and I wanted to bring this up because you may see it in national news, yesterday, the United States Supreme Court decided to shield a Vermont police officer from a legal claim that he used excessive force after physically injuring a protester during a nonviolent sit-in in the Vermont State House in 2015. That nonviolent protester was Sheila Linton, who is a Brattleboro resident and a deeply valued lifelong member of our community. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson criticized the majority for its approach to cases involving qualified immunity for police. Back in that 2015 incident, Ms. Linton, who was the one black person of the 29 people who were arrested for their sit-in in the Vermont State House, who was unarmed and non-threatening, was injured by the officer, causing permanent loss of motion in her left wrist and shoulder, as she described in her lawsuit. Ms. Linton asked me to share a statement with you here today. She said, "Vermont is not immune to violent acts from law enforcement. We don't have the laws to protect us, and we need to have the political will to change the system that allows for violence from law enforcement to be immune." End quote. We have often been taught in the society that black people are aggressors and should be feared. That is wrong. So often we who are white become silent while so many black people bear the brunt of systemic violence. Today I want to remind everybody of Brattleboro about the Brattleboro inclusion statement, which is over on the door by the exit sign. You might take a look at it if you're in the room on your way out, and I believe it's on our website. When we experience threats to our communities, we may be tempted to go quiet and to avoid the tension of an abusive federal government or of a bully. But in times like this, I turn to the words of Vermont's motto, freedom and unity. And to keep those words alive, when our neighbors are under attack, we must stand up and speak out. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. Amanda, do you have a comment?
You know, I want to give a shout out to Jessie Dickens. She was she retired last weekend at the final World Cup race here in North America in the Adirondacks. She's a 4-time Olympic medalist, 3-time World Cup champion, first ever Olympic gold for an American, and the first American to win the overall FIS World Cup Crystal Globe. Jessie trained at the Stratton Mountain School, and so she has some connection with Vermont, and she's brought a lot to the field of skiing, and I just wanted to take this moment to celebrate that American achievement.
Thank you, Amanda. Peter, do you have a comment?
No, I'm good.
No? Great. Thank you all. Okay, we're going to move ahead to public comment for the meeting. This is an opportunity for anyone in the public who wishes to speak about something that's not on the agenda. And I'll remind everyone, this is also the opportunity if there's something on our consent agenda that you'd like us to take off, this would be the time to do so. Ivan.
Hello, Ivan Hennessy. First, I wasn't planning on doing this, but thank you, Isaac, especially for sharing Sheila's words. And what I initially intended to say is thank you, John. I got to listen to the first episode of the refreshed Town Matters podcast, and it reviewed the last few meetings, prepared me for this meeting. Everyone should check it out. It's great.
Thanks, Ivan.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to make a comment? Yes, Heidi.
Hi, Heidi Fisher, District 7. I'm speaking for myself, not for anybody else at the hospital, but would just like to say, bring everybody's attention to what's going on at the hospital with the nursing and auxiliary staff having voted to agree to strike if deemed necessary by our negotiating team, and would just encourage the select board, if it's appropriate, to try to help the hospital figure it out, because it's quite a difficult situation, and we need our hospital, and we all need health care. So.
Thank you, Heidi. Yes, please.
Yes. Hello, my name's Ahmad Esfahani. I live in Greenfield, Mass., but I work in Brattleboro. I'm here tonight to respectfully urge you to consider adopting a resolution similar to the one recently passed in Amherst, Massachusetts, which calls for federal immigration agents to be held accountable under state law when they violate it. This resolution, which I have here, and I would like to enter into the record, affirms a simple but important principle that no one operating within a state, regardless of federal authority, is above the state's criminal laws. It calls on state and local officials to investigate and prosecute unlawful actions where warranted, and to ensure transparency with the public. While Vermont has its own legal framework and policies, the underlying concept translates directly. Municipalities can and should clearly affirm their commitment to the rule of law, civil rights, and the safety of all residents. A Brattleboro resolution of this nature could affirm that all individuals within Vermont are protected by state law and constitutional rights, encourage appropriate Vermont authorities to investigate any alleged violations of state law, regardless of the actor, reiterate the town's commitment to due process, transparency, and public accountability, and ensure that local resources are used in a manner consistent with Vermont law and community values. Importantly, such a resolution would not interfere with lawful federal activity. Rather, it would clarify that unlawful actions by any party should be subject to the same legal standards that apply to everyone else. Resolutions like this are also about leadership. As we've seen all across the nation, local action can help set expectations, create clarity, and encourage coordination at the state level. Brattleboro has a long tradition of standing up for liberties and human dignity. Taking this step would be consistent with this tradition and would send a clear message that our community believes in accountability, fairness, and the rule of law. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no?
I would just like to request, if willing, our emails are on the website. I, at least personally, would benefit from being able to see what you said and wrote, in writing. You can give it to me, or
Sure,
you can
please.
email it to me. But I just think generally it's easier for us to work. There's a lot that can be done not at the meetings.
Of course, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll send it.
Well, thank you very much. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, we're going to move ahead to the consent agenda, and I am looking for a motion.
Would you like a synopsis?
I would like a synopsis. Thank you.
First, okay. You don't have to. There are 4 items on the consent agenda tonight. If you approve the agenda, you'll be authorizing an application of up to $1,500 for a 2026 Community Tree Fund mini grant to support tree planting at West River Park and on the Whetstone Pathway. You'll be approving participation in the agreement covering the combined settlement with the 6 remnant defendants resolving opioid-related claims. You'll be approving a parade and open meeting permit for Indivisible Brattleboro to hold an event starting at the Preston lot on Sunday, March 28th. And you'll be accepting a $466 quote from Minuteman Press to create a banner announcing annual town meeting.
Great, thank you. Would a member of the board care to make a motion? Isaac.
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Great, thank you. Isaac has made a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. That's 5-0. Motion passes. All right, thank you. So, regular business. Brattleboro Festival of Miniatures update. I think we're going to invite Melany to the table.
I think it's Melany and Company.
Melany and Company is very welcome.
Yeah, so Melany and Company is, there's not 2 chairs?
Oh,
We
we'll
can-
get you more chairs. Oh, no. Oh, really? No, you guys should all
Yeah,
go up
no,
there.
we're all supposed to be up.
Yeah, you're all supposed to be up here. I'll help you. Come on.
We may be small, but we're grand.
But we're
There's a
great.
lot of us.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Putting that on
You're,
there.
yep.
Definitely taking you up. All right, Amanda has something up her sleeve.
Thank you, Amanda.
I'm a helper.
Well, welcome. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for all the work you've done on this festival. Is there... John, how are we setting this up?
Oh, actually, I think we should maybe turn this over to Amanda.
Sure.
Great.
Okay, great. Yeah. On behalf of Brattleboro, the Select Board, and the entire town of Brattleboro, I want to thank you for a really successful first miniature festival. 40 days of miniatures in downtown Brattleboro, a team effort enlivening our downtown, bringing visitors. I saw more locals on our Main Street than I have in a long time, bringing just a lot of joy. And for this, and I know that you guys probably are going to do, I know there's a little follow-up thing that you want to do, but we decided to give you the keys to the town in mini from our beloved Brown and Roberts. And I know it was a team.
I thought you were joking. Oh my God.
It's a play key, so you could go to Brown and Roberts.
Ooh, thank you.
And we just really wanted to thank you formally, because though you had, there was lots of things. And where's Luca? He gets one too.
Oh, yeah, he's our miniest
Our mini
miniatures.
minis.
You're the mini supporter. There you go.
Yeah, he's up for a lot of
And then
things.
I hear there's news.
There's a
share.
lot of news, yeah. So on behalf of the Festival of Miniatures, of which I am the founding director at this point, self-appointed, this is the esteemed team. So Erin Skaggs, you all are familiar with from the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance. We could not have launched this without the championship of that organization and especially her incredible social media and marketing skills. Desiree Stango, who you may or may not know, as a realtor at Berkeley and Beller, she actually has a degree from the Fashion Institute of Design, and all of that beautiful stuff that you saw in the Painted Victorian, she touched every bit of that. Nancy Vitale, who is the executive director last year and will be this coming year, has produced things as large as the Penn Festival in New York City, so having her skills here in Brattleboro is really a godsend. And of course, Kate Traxis needs no introduction as the director of all good things that happen at the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance. I'll pass it over to these folks to say something should they wish, but the big news is 2.0 is coming back teenier and bigger than ever. We have already launched our new website. Our new social media came out this week. We have our dates in place. Our festival is actually going to go a full 6 weeks this year. It's going to go from the day after Thanksgiving right until the week after January 1st. So we had a lot of requests for it to be extended. We're going to have the same events as last year, plus a whole lot of new ones. And most importantly, we are now having a year-round footprint here in Brattleboro with the launching of the, drum roll, Museum of Things Tiny and Found at the Hooker Dunham Theater and Gallery. And for those of you who've been down there in the last 30 years, it's an incredibly historical and well-used, well-loved space, but it's been, post-COVID, just a tiny bit quiet. So we're re-envisioning it and reimagining it as a year-round place for people to find not only minis, but also Brian's trains from Beadniks are now installed and going around the top again after the big flood there. So that's very exciting. We have a lot of, that's having a soft opening next Friday, the 3rd of April. Y'all are invited, the community's invited, and then a hard opening at Gallery Walk the 1st of May. So I'm going to pass it over to anybody else on the team to add anything that I might have forgotten and just whatever else we want to say about the festival.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're really excited to see the Museum of Things Tiny and Found will also be part of our monthly First Friday Gallery Walk location. And there's always something new coming out of this group, so we're always on our toes. But yeah, as you all know, it was an amazing festival. It really meant a lot, I think, to all of us that live here, definitely to our businesses downtown. Saw great numbers and sales, and their creativity was just so fun. So we're psyched for 2.0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, keep going.
Just very briefly, festivalofminiatures.org, easy peasy. So please follow it along.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I just wanted to wind up and just say that what's also so inspiring is this was a passionate endeavor that a single person from Brattleboro had this idea. And they got together a team, and the community wrapped around it and made it happen. And so that magic is real. And I just wanted to really thank our support also from our DPW, our police department, our fire department, and all the town departments that really were part of it too, and planning.
Yeah, and in no small part did every single business contribute to this. Peter can speak to this. Anybody who has a storefront in Brattleboro, we had 87 installations. Next year, we're hoping to hit that 3-digit number. And we have a really great theme this year, which is museums. We're doing the Itsy Bella Stuart Gardner Museum, filled with the work of 100 local artists, because Itsy collected art from local Brattleboro artisans, of course. And all of the schools are once again going to get a spirit house, only this year it's going to be a spirit museum. And they're all going to have a chance to make their own museum within their school system. So we're really deeply ingrained in the community right now, engaging every nonprofit, every store, every volunteer. Heads up, volunteers. We love volunteers. So please know that it's a very welcoming community of miniature enthusiasts, and we have a lot of fun.
And everything was free.
And everything's free. That's part of the festival, and accessible, as accessible as can be. Open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 40 days. Thank you so much for our keys.
Yes, thank you. I'm just want to offer anyone on the board a chance for a question or a comment.
I was just going to get in a thank you, for everything that you're sharing here, for all the work that was behind it. I have the privilege of being friends with a lot of amazing artists in the area, and I got to be there to see Ezra hand over his mini woven ash basket to Mel. I got some of the behind the scenes in looking at Doran Ham, who I want to shout out for being the curator of the Museum of Things
tonight. He couldn't be here, but
I'm sure
a lot of his vision is here.
Yeah, so I just want to extend all my appreciation to you guys for doing the administrative work behind that and basically setting up a platform to show all the amazing artists and creativity that we have here in Brattleboro.
Thank you. Peter, any comment?
Oh, great job.
Isaac?
Yeah, ditto, and thank you for, it's great to get great news about Brattleboro. I heard that the word was spread far and wide. Thank you.
And our PR arm this year is going to hopefully make last year look like the inaugural year, and this year like we know what we're doing.
Well, thank you, Isaac. And just anyone in the public who would like to make a comment or ask a question? Seeing none, I will send you all off with thanks and, of course, your keys, which I hope you will find very useful. Thank you all again.
Thank you. They open every lock in the municipal center.
Uh-oh. Good. All right. Excellent. So we're going to move on to agenda item B, public records request policy, and I believe I'm turning this over to you, Hannah. Is that right?
I suppose. I don't know if John wants to introduce it or...
Sure. Let's see. This item is the town gets regular public records requests, and it has for many years, and we comply with the public records statute of the state. However, in looking in our records, we didn't have an updated policy on that. So when we went to try to start to put some of this online so that people can more easily find, like, how do you submit a request and what information do you need to provide the town in order for it to be acted on quickly, we realized that maybe spelling that out for people would be helpful and being able to put that on the website. So Seth has created a form on the website now so that people can easily put their records request in there. They don't have to, but there's an option, and it would help us process things more quickly. And so during this whole conversation about, how do we bring this up to date, we realized that the Vermont League of Cities and Towns has a model public records request policy. We asked the town attorney to look at that policy and make sure that it fit within the capabilities of Brattleboro and does what Brattleboro wants it to do. So Hannah put together this draft policy that's in your backup materials, and we'd be looking for you to endorse that tonight or to give us direction on any changes that you would like to see. And now I would turn it over to Hannah and ask you to summarize kind of what's in there and what they might expect to see here.
Yeah, so like John said, this is largely modeled on the VLCT model policy, but it's been adapted in a way that we think will be effective for the town of Brattleboro. We've consulted with departments that already handle a large volume of public records requests to make sure that this would work for them, and they are very open to the idea of having a more uniform, streamlined system for how these requests are coming in and then going out, because right now it's sort of a hodgepodge of some departments have forms, some people just email random members of town staff, and that has to get redirected. And so this will hopefully make it easier to track records coming in and seeing how they've been responded to. It basically just codifies what's already in statute in terms of our obligations and definitions, and asks for requesters to use the form. If requesters do not want to use the form, then the expectation would be that the town staff who receives it would submit that form so that that record is getting created for tracking purposes. And it also lays out the copy charges following the uniform schedule of charges adopted by the state, and identifies what is a standard format for a lot of documents and when the town might agree to a non-standard format and the costs associated with that. It also sets out an appeal process, which is required by statute, but we didn't have any sort of formal written appeal process. So now appeals will go to the town manager if you adopt this. And it's basically just following our obligations under state law. There are pending bills for the state legislature that might change some of these timelines, but we can always amend the policy to comply with any changes to the state law in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hannah. Okay. Any members of the board with questions or comments or suggestions for the policy? I'll start on the left. Nell?
This is a little bit semantics. I'm just curious for the cost for the fees. When it's physically duplicating a record, that's, it's 33 cents per minute after the first 30 minutes. Is that 30 minutes for the time spent at the copier or the time spent, preparing or gathering that? My impression is that it's at the copier there.
That's for the staff time.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be someone standing there scanning or copying documents, which it just, in case anyone needs the math, I think it's $19 an hour.
Yeah, I did that too.
But obviously the first 30 minutes, there's no charge. So for that first hour, it would effectively be $8 an hour.
And an hour of photocopying that's a lot of photocopying. A lot of records.
There's a lot of old records. It could be feasible that someone could have to stand there and scan hundreds of documents.
Totally. Peter, any comments?
No, is there, give me 17 good reasons why we should change anything.
I wrote it. If I thought the things should have been changed, I would have written it differently. So.
Okay. Good enough for me.
Great. I have no comments or questions. Amanda?
I have one question. Would you reiterate, Hannah, who the custodian specifically will be, or custodians, the role?
So this policy is going to apply to any records in the custody of the town. So there are different custodians for different kinds of records. For instance, all the land records are in the custody of the town clerk. All the police officers are in custody of Brattleboro Police. So I believe these forms will come into Seth and Sally, and then they will determine who needs to respond to those requests. And sometimes requests cover multiple departments, and it's a coordinated effort to respond to them as well.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Isaac?
What training do town staff receive on the Vermont Public Records Act?
What training? We have training available through the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. We also have advice from our town attorneys.
I have gone and met with individual departments upon request too, if they have particular questions or want department-specific guidance.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public. First, anyone in the room who has a question or comment? Yes, Ken.
Thank you. Ken Fay, District 8. I'm curious as to the amount of requests that the town gets. Just a rough, is it like 5 a year, 15 a year, 50 a year, 100 a year?
Is that something you could take a shot at?
I could. It would be a complete guess because we get right now. So that's one of the things that this policy and this approach that we've developed online will help us be able to track that better. Right now, they're coming into a department, multiple departments. Some come to our office, some come to the town clerk's office. So we really don't know that. It would take some research to figure that out. But yeah, I mean, it's in the multiple tens. Certainly, probably under 100.
A year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other question is it possible, and this may seem meta, to have it public, to have like a public listing of public request, information? I've seen that in some towns because one thing, it highlights what other citizens are looking for, and also to not repeat if they're thinking of looking for information or something like that.
Well, I suppose there's a question for Hannah. I assume we have no legal requirement to do something like that.
All public records requests are themselves public records. So
right. So somebody could make a request for the list of all the requests in the past year,
yes,
or something like that.
I think what Ken is trying to say is, once a public request is made, can we just automatically make that public?
There are different agencies in towns that do that in order to avoid getting duplicate requests. I don't know that having that information available would necessarily deter people from making duplicate requests. And sometimes requests can overlap but not match up perfectly. A lot of times it's searching specific terms or specific date ranges, so they're not always identical. But that would be something for you to determine if you wanted to, have a database of records that have been requested and make that publicly available.
Great. So, Ken, I've made a note of that, and if any board member, of course, wants to bring that forward as an idea for something to change, we can definitely pursue that. Yes, Seth. Marta on Zoom.
Hi. Yeah. I just wanted to comment that I think that anyone who is custodian of records or whoever compiles the final report and gives it to the person who requested it should be going through extra training, particularly because I know last year we had a public record request that did not comply with state law, wherein it actually, you have to explain the basis for redaction of information, and it did not. Neither did any of it come with a notice that you could appeal the redaction or to whom. And also, it was an incomplete fulfilled request. For instance, one email had 5 copies based on the 2-line, and only 3 were turned over, and 2 of those were the same, and 1 differed in content. So like that should have been caught by, I don't know, the town clerk, the town attorney, or there should be someone who reviews for that the public records requests we are turning over actually comply with the law, as well as the fact that rather than having employees print off like emails themselves or forward it to someone to print, that having an IT policy that could pull from the server would probably be a more expeditious and more in line with what the law requires than simply having folks like every individual search their own email program for a term or something like that. I've actually done project management on a similar project where we had to create a server pull kind of script for compliance of subpoenas, and would be happy to consult or talk about that with anyone in IT who might be able to make that type of program.
Thanks, Marta. I think the question of training is interesting and maybe something we can...
Would you like me to respond to that?
Yes, please.
This policy spells out exactly what those obligations are under the law, and this will be available to all town staff. And we also have been in touch with the town technology company that is managing our IT, and they are going to assist with doing those searches as Marta described.
Great, that's excellent. Okay, I've made a note of the question of training, but we can follow up on that another time. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, would any member of the board care to make a motion?
Can I ask just one clarifying question?
Of course.
So, Hannah, would it be accurate to say that you or Bob have essentially that if somebody who could be in the position of being a custodian on the town staff, as opposed if they have not gone through the training that VLCT offers, you guys are in a position to guide them through that with the knowledge that you have?
Yeah, we regularly do that. Different departments reach out to us with specific questions, and we also assist with large requests or requests where there needs to be a significant amount of review and possibly redaction. So
okay. Because I do think that the question of training is an important one, and I also think it's important to have that clear in the meantime.
Great, thank you. Yes, John.
And many other towns that I've worked in have a public records custodian. That's a position where the training is in a centralized unit. If that's something the board would like us to look into a job description or something for something like that, that might be the most efficient at a certain level of requests. If we, for example, do things that start to generate more and more of those, that may be where we'll have to end up at some point. So keep in mind that every bit we add to this, it starts to become a body of work that somebody has to do.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I forgot I wanted to say one more thing about Ken's comment. I do think that there could be value. I understand that people make records requests for all sorts of different motivations, but for folks that I think there could be value even in just listing the nature of the query, such that individuals, if they thought, oh, okay, well, that person has that information, I could reach out to them, save the staff time, save the cost. So I think that could be something worth looking into, even if it's not like a full publication of the entire request.
And we can look at that. A growing trend are these AI requests. That's something that could end up being a significant volume of work for the town. I know that the state legislature has been looking at the Public Records Act. I think there's a bill right now. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but to address some of these systemic issues that may increase the burden on the town administrations.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Nope, Marta's hand is down again. Okay, fantastic. So I'm looking for a motion from the board. Isaac?
I move to adopt the Brattleboro Public Record Inspection, Copying, and Transmission Policy as presented.
Great. Isaac has made a motion to adopt the Brattleboro Public Record Inspection, Copying, and Transmission Policy as presented. All members in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. That passes 5-0. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Hannah. Okay, we're going to move ahead to see the January budget update. John?
Thank you, Oscar. Yes, we don't have Bonnie Batchelder with us this month, so I will do my best to give you an update, and if you have any questions, I will endeavor to get you the answers. This is a report through January of 2026 for fiscal year 26. And as of the end of January, we were at 58% of the fiscal year completed. So looking at the general fund, our revenues annualized are at 66% of budget, so that is doing great. Expenditures, when prorated, are at 59% of the annual budget, so running slightly high there. Total revenues are at $24,755,000. Total expenses are at $16,043,000. That is a surplus in the general fund of $8.7 million. And our cash balances as of the end of 2025 were at $15.5 million. The revenues, as you'll see in your report, include $8.7 million of receivables, and those are broken down. Some areas that the finance staff pulled out to draw to your attention are that EMS revenue is at $766,000. That represents 100% of the FY26 revenue for EMS. Annualized, we would expect to see $1.3 million of revenue during fiscal year 26, and this would exceed our approved budget by $432,000. Benefits are at 59% of budget, running slightly high. Social Security, Vermont child care contribution, and retirement they are exceeding budget based on increased overtime and comp time expenses, but the health insurance is currently under budget and it's offsetting most of that increased cost, so we're continuing to track that. Utility costs are rising, and these costs will definitely exceed budgets for fiscal year 26. And with current events may go even further. So, overtime budgets are overrun in fire, police, and dispatch, as we've discussed in previous reports. That's continued. Fire overtime is currently over budget by $232,000 for the year. However, this is offset by underspending on staff salary lines, which is not as good as it was last month, but still within reason for covering that overtime loss for the year. Police overtime is currently over budget by $54,000 for the year, and this is completely covered and offset by underspending of staff salary lines. There is a incentives line which appears to have no budget attached. This is just a new way that we're tracking things for better transparency. A thing that we identified for the fiscal year 27 budget was pulling out incentives as a separate line. So when you see that in the report, it's not over budget spending, it's just a different way of reporting it. That is the general fund. In the utilities fund, again, at 58% of the year, revenues are running slightly over budget at 59%, and expenditures are, when prorated, are at 35% of the annual budget, so we're doing very well in utilities with total revenues of $4.2 million, total expenses of $2.7 million for a surplus of $1.4 million. In the parking fund, not quite as rosy, but revenues are currently at 47% of the annual budget. Some of that may be due to January not being a great month. When we prorate that, and expenditures when prorated are at 49%, so that's well under 58% of the year. But we are running a deficit with revenues of $478,000 and expenses of $519,000 for a deficit of $41,000 right now, give or take. There's a loan report, a grant report as usual, and I'm happy to try to tackle any questions that you may have or any lines that you want to discuss.
Great, thank you, John.
Yep.
I just have a couple things I wanted to call out. You covered one of them, which is that for the first time this year, we're not offsetting all the fire overtime with other savings. It still mitigates it, but that's the first time that that number has crossed in the other direction. The collection rate for EMS is gone from 43, 42 in the last 2 months to 35 this month, which I think we're looking into.
Yep.
The mechanics behind that, because that would be that's 35% for the year, so that would be a pretty startling change, but we're flagging that and looking into it.
And still projecting to be way over budget. So,
yes.
Yep.
And then on the parking side, it's definitely we are watching it, but hopeful, I think reasonably hopeful that spring and summer we'll see more revenue. So I'm pretty optimistic that we'll make up that deficit. Those are my comments. I will start on the right this time. So Isaac, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Thanks. Amanda?
I have a question about the utility fund, because I just don't really understand what. So expenditures represent 38% of the annual budget. When we prorate annual expenditures such as debt service and transfers, the utility fund expenditures represent 35. So it was cumulative revenues were 59, but then, so can you explain that a little bit more about prorating transfers and debt service? And is it for utilities specifically or general debt servicing?
Yeah, so we've taken out loans to do different projects in utilities, and we're paying that debt off. We typically pay that early in the fiscal year or when it comes due. And so if that's a big chunk of the budget, then that gets paid, say in July. And then when we prorate it, we basically spread that out across the year so that it's a truer number of where we're at. That's the general idea of prorating that.
Okay, cool. And it's all within the package of utility revenue, utility, debt, utility.
Yep, correct.
Got it.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
And I do have one question there, actually. We're intending to run a big surplus here because we're trying to build up reserves for capital projects down the road. So this isn't a surprise-free $1.4 million that we found.
No, this is your plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great. Peter, any questions?
No, it looks good to me.
No?
Oscar covered my questions. Appreciate it.
Great. Well, let me open it up to the public. Is there anyone in the room with a question? Kate.
It's going to be a surprise question.
Ooh.
Kate O'Connor, Brattleboro. It's not going to be a surprise because I ask it every month. And given that we see a blip in the EMS revenues, and I'll give you fair warning, I'm going to ask the same question at the town meeting info meeting. When are we going to get the numbers for the actual that we took in FY25 for the EMS? And I'm particularly going to ask this again at the info meeting because you based the FY27 budget number on what we took in on FY25. FY25 ended 8 months ago, and we've been told over and over and over and over again that we're going to get this number. So I'm going to keep asking it. Probably I'll be coming in with a walker someday asking the FY25 actual EMS numbers, but it's really important, and I don't understand why we can't get it. So thank you.
And I'll answer that again, and we have provided that. I believe last August we provided that information to the board. I have spoken with Chief Simons about getting that up on a website because we keep getting asked about this, and let's have a place where everyone can go find it and you can see what that is. Now, those are unaudited figures. If you mean the audited figures, then we're waiting for the auditor to complete their work, hopefully in April, and we'll get the final numbers there. But it's not going to be that much different from what we reported last August.
So I think the one wrinkle there is that in August, we still have a couple months where FY25 is open, and if revenue comes in that should be booked to FY25, it gets put there. So we talked about this morning. I'm equally confident that we have that number and probably have put it on a piece of paper at some point, but we will find it, and I will email it to you.
It may have been in the quarterly report from the fire department after first quarter. Yeah, so it may not have been August. I think it might have been October or something like that.
But you and I can look. We'll find it. We'll triple confirm that it's the number you want.
And we're getting it up on the website. So
and it will be on the website.
And this is just something I didn't know until John told me, but the auditor has started work.
Yep.
So I think that can be, I initially had thought it might have been pushed off for longer, off of what I had heard before I was out there, a public meeting. So for me, that was comforting to know.
Yes, thank you. That's a good point to make. Any other questions in the room and on Zoom? Okay, seeing none. We have no action on this, I think.
Could accept it if you want.
Have we been doing that? Sometimes. Okay. Well, then, if a member of the board would care to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the FY26 monthly budget update for January.
Great. Nell has made a motion to accept the FY26 budget update for January. All board members in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 5-0. All right, thank you. Okay. Agenda item D. Next Generation Brattleboro. John, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Oscar. So I'm here tonight to update you all on an exciting and emerging community-led effort known as Next Generation Brattleboro, and to ask for your feedback and guidance on this work that's been going on in the community. So over the past 12 months or so, a number of residents, business leaders, select board members, and community partners have reached out to the town manager's office with a shared interest in strengthening Brattleboro's economic future. This, in particular, the select board members who've been talking to me about this, it's really around two of your priorities from last year, which were increased revenues and financial responsibility and health. And the idea was, what can we do around economic development to move forward on increasing our revenues and improving the financial health of the town. So as folks came forward with, hey, it's really, we really, what can we do to kind of take this to the next level? I work to help bring people together, sort of ask who else should be involved in this effort, and generally tried to create some space for a broader conversation around economic development. It led to two gatherings, one which was in November and a larger event which happened on March 4th, earlier this month, with over 150 participants. And there seemed to be the sense that the feedback that I got from those meetings was that there is a real interest and readiness in the town to work more intentionally on a shared economic vision or direction for Brattleboro. At its core, this effort is sort of around asking the question, how do we make Brattleboro a place where a critical mass of working age people want to make this the town where they live, where they have a job, and where they want to build a future. That's sort of what's emerged. And a goal that was discussed at the March meeting was, could we focus on something like 802 by 2032? So 802 new working age people in town by 2032. And not that is necessarily like a forecast or too hard of a goal, but more as an organizing question, is that something that people could get behind and think about, hey, if that was sort of where things were headed, what could I do to help make that happen? What is my role? Where's my place in doing that, if that was sort of a community-wide thought? And really the underlying idea around this and the connection back to the select board's priorities are that if we really want to sustain the services and the institutions, be they public government or private nonprofit or other key businesses and institutions in the town, as well as the quality of life that people value in Brattleboro, then we really need that broader base of working age residents contributing to the local economy and the tax base. We're definitely seeing in Brattleboro some long-term trends that aren't unique to our town, but are very real, and that is an aging population, a shrinking workforce, and rising costs to deliver municipal services. What I think we're starting to see is a pretty high level of energy around working on this effort, a willingness to collaborate, to work together, and frankly, a set of assets in Brattleboro that make us a very attractive place for this kind of thing to happen. That includes our great downtown, a stupendous arts and cultural infrastructure, and really high level of civic engagement, and the fact that we're a regional hub, which is extremely important for supporting some level of growth like that we're talking about. But the question, I think, is whether we can be more intentional about aligning the work that lots of people are doing in town around, some sort of North Star, a way to think about how do we work together on something like this. Now, everything that I've been talking about is at a very early stage. It's really just been sort of testing the waters. It's something that I would characterize as starting to take shape. It's really been an informal group of people, really people who have seen the situation that we're in and said, hey, that's something that we should all get together and work on. And they've come forward and organized these couple of early meetings and advanced some of these ideas, which are very interesting and I think are starting to resonate with some people. So I would characterize it as early because there's no structure yet really developed for this. That's still kind of a next step item. There's not really any formal thing yet. It's kind of emerging more organically at this point. Another idea that has been discussed is the idea of how do we develop some sort of longer-term investment approach that could draw on private, philanthropic, and public resources that could be used to support key projects that we might want to see as a community, things that support the implementation of the town plan, for example. People's timing is great because we have representatives from 3 organizations in this room right now who are very strong organizations working in this space: the BDCC, the DBA, and the Chamber of Commerce. And I want to be super clear that this sort of thing that we've been talking about, Next Generation Brattleboro, is not at all intended to replace any of the excellent work or duplicate any of the excellent work that is being done in those organizations. It's more asking the question, is there a way that we can better align and invite broader participation and coordination into the idea of all of our collective responsibility for economic development in the town. So the town's role so far has been to convene and connect people. I would propose continuing to hold down that role in the near term, while a more formal stewardship structure may emerge from this effort, which I think would be great if it was more broadly representative of the community. I would also propose that I continue to put a bunch of my time in on this as 2 of your priorities. Of course, we'll be relooking at your priorities during the retreat in April. But right now, I'm thinking if I was spending 5 to 6 hours a week on this, that would continue to help move this effort along. There may be opportunities through this effort to build additional capacity. The reason the town manager's office has kind of been picking this up is because, normally it would have been something maybe that an assistant town manager would be working on, but we've not been able to fund that position in this fiscal year. So I've been trying to pick up the slack there as well as I can. Probably not very well, but at least trying to move the conversation forward. And if it weren't for many of the folks in this room who are representing these other organizations that I mentioned, and also a group of really energetic folks who just see that there is a huge potential here for us to be doing more and better economic development work in the town. So Yeah, I think that's basically it. I'm happy to answer any questions about this. I know this effort's kind of just, like I said, kind of developed organically through word of mouth. We did do a bunch of intentional outreach as well, but we've likely missed folks. I know I guarantee we've missed folks that really will be the people that carry this effort forward. I think that expanding participation is a really important next step, and including, we want to bring this out to a broader public meeting if the board is supportive, and this is sort of a direction that you want us to continue to work on. I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to ask you tonight. I would like your informal feedback on this. I'm not really looking for a motion or anything, but I am looking for general guidance. Is this helpful to meet your priorities? Is there one or more board members who is interested in working closely on this as we move forward? Any other feedback that you might have? But I'm happy to answer any questions too.
Great, thank you, John. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's start with the board. I'll start on the right this time. Isaac, do you have any questions or comments for John?
Yeah, well, first of all, John, it's great to see your energy for this. I was at that March meeting, and there was a lot of energy in the room and excitement. Great that you were able to play that convening role. You mentioned the goal from the select board retreat last summer around financial responsibility and health, which is one that I had put forward. And really what I had in mind was around multi-year financial planning, restoring our reserves as a town, working on curbing municipal property tax increases. And I think that work, there's still work on that stuff for us to do. And I know we have in the proposed budget to bring on a finance director, and we have that drafted 5-year plan that I think we could spend some more time with. And I'm also thinking about the priority of housing as something that contributes to our economy. It's great if we attract 800 more people here, but we don't have anywhere to put them. That also is a little bit of a concern, given there was that report that we were something like 500 units short in terms of housing. So I'm curious to hear how you see, particularly the issue of housing, how we might address that in conjunction with this or balance these different priorities, and also wondering if this might be something we'd want to take up at the retreat. I think you mentioned it, kind of look at this at the retreat along with the other priorities.
Yeah, and I would just thank you, Isaac. Yeah, and I think at the March 4th gathering that you were at, housing was a really big focus. We know that we can't do this sort of economic development work without more growth in where people are going to rest their heads at night. And so, that is going to be, I think, a key component of this, and how we move it forward is how do we get the economic development around where people are going to live set before we're maybe tackling some other things. But also, I've gotten a sense that, kind of moving everything forward at once is important, because you're not going to attract necessarily the housing project that you need, the kind you need, if you don't have the other things also moving forward. So in arts and culture, or in providing good jobs, and other things like the third spaces that make Brattleboro such a great place to live. So.
Great.
Thanks. And a follow-up question is just in terms of looking at the amount that you have on your plate and the time. Curious if there are, what would be alternatives in terms of keeping this work going, but not having it be requiring, an average of 15% of your time, given that we don't have that assistant town manager role yet, and we don't yet have the finance director position hired.
Yeah, if you want me to back off on this, please let me know. I think it's really important for the town to be working on it, and so it does mean that there are other things that I wouldn't be doing, but also 5 or 6 hours a week is sort of what I'm doing above and beyond what you expect of me in a job description or something like that. So I'm really contributing this almost on a volunteer basis as well. So I am getting the rest of the work done. I think this is so important that we really need to be all working together to make this happen. So,
thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Thanks. And I think let's have this general conversation first and come back to the question of if there are board members who want to more directly get involved. We'll do that at the end. Amanda, any questions or comments?
Okay, I would, Brattleboro does work together, and I think that that's a theme here. I love the fact that, and I've heard you say this, John, at a couple of these meetings, that there were multiple community members reaching out to you simultaneously, unaware that they were, with a lot of innovative ideas. Hey, why doesn't Brattleboro do this? Hey, why don't you do this? And John's like, I guess let's get these people together. And I think that being the seed and the germinant of this initiative is really remarkable. I see the sort of, you called it the North Star, but the idea of really an interdisciplinary opportunity within town departments. So I see this work overlapping with a lot of the work that John does in other departments as well. When we're talking housing, we're talking planning department. When we're talking Department of Public Works, we're talking community spaces. Like, it hits all of these parts of within town government at the same time as it's. So I see it solidifying and just gelling things in a really cool way. I also like the idea of it being something that we can all get our heads around as a community, because it's not political. But I will say the one criticism I would have is I'm not hearing enough about farms. So, anyway.
Thank you, Amanda. My brief comments, I don't want you to stop doing it. I want you to keep working on this. I was at the last event. It was a really interesting group of people to have in that room. We do ask a lot of you, and we haven't hired an assistant town manager for you, so you'll need to help us make sure that this doesn't become a burden, because this work goes in so many different directions that are all really important. So I think we can continue to encourage and be involved, and as it gels and as it takes more formal shapes, we can continue to have conversations about, our conversations can get more specific as this thing gets more specific. And I also agree that just in general, this will be a great topic for our retreat when we'll get to go a little deeper on priorities and long-term goals. But thank you again for putting this together and for the presentation. It's really excellent. Peter?
Yeah, I too want to thank John for all the hard work that he's done. I know this has been a subject of conversation with both John and I for a while as far as moving this thing forward. Look, and I keep mentioning it over and over again that, revenue solves a lot of problems. It doesn't just come from growing the grand list. It comes from, a marketing effort to our town to bring people in, to increase our rooms and meals taxes. Those are kind of the low-hanging fruit and the immediate things that we can be doing. And what do those things look like? What does Brattleboro have that no other community has that we can key on? We've got some great events. Brand new one we heard about tonight was the mini festival, and then Harrisville Ski Jump, the literary festival, the Marlboro Music Festival. These are all things that bring people into our community. And you'll forgive me, the spray painting people that came in.
Oh, what's it called?
The graffiti jam?
What was it?
Sucker Punch.
Yeah, Sucker Punch. So, things like that just brought a little bit of an excitement and a bunch of new faces into our downtown that, might leave a little money behind then, but then they discover something in our town that they really like, and then they come back, and that's how this thing grows. This is why I really near adore the fact that we are focused on 2032, because it will take a lot of time to roll this stuff out and to get some traction. But there are more immediate things that we can do. And I've told John I am happy to burden some of this load. This is something I'm feeling really passionate about, something that I will look to work with folks like the DBA, the BDCC, to beyond my term here as a select board member and just a regular citizen who just loves our community and wants to see it thrive and succeed, and would love, my number one goal is that at some point in time, whether I sit on this board or not, that we don't necessarily have to talk about what we cut, but that we are just heading in a direction that is solving all our problems, because we're finally doing it right.
Thank you, Peter. Nell?
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you. And I think some of the benefit of being a select board member is that we get to have these conversations with John, not always only up here. So I appreciate the sentiments Isaac brought up, and I also think that something that is even said in here in the backup memo is that there's a risk that the expectations could outpace the capacity to deliver in the short term. So I think something we all understand, I think something John is focused on is for this movement, this is something he's working on, something he's stewarding, and also the goal is for it to become, I think, self-perpetuating is the word I'm recalling from this morning. So I think that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on and make sure that it can get there, because we do have a lot of other really important things that we need to focus on as a town. And I think, we've got a few things lined up, right? We have to get through open town meeting, so we know what we're doing with our budget, and then we have to see what we can do in terms of a finance director. And those are going to be kind of two very telling things in terms of the budget season that we'll be entering into. And I also think that you see it everywhere in town, that there are a lot of people outside of municipal government that are doing amazing things for our town. And again, the DBA is here, BDCC is here, Chamber of Commerce is here. We just saw a representation of that. I've been trying to get myself out to some more community meetings recently, and just the amount of commitment to the town and willingness we have among citizens to work towards projects that improve things in our town is amazing. And I think this is trying to capitalize and essentially form a nexus of that. But it's not saying that all of this is under the purview of the municipal government, nor should it be. So I'm happy to see all of this. I was really happy for the conversations that I got to have with people at the March 3rd event, at some of the events leading up to that. I'm grateful to be in the position that I am, because I guess of my identity as a young person in town, as a young working age person who decided to come and stay in Brattleboro, and the perspective that gives me. And I hope to be able to represent other people in town in that same position, and make sure that is more easily, I guess, I wanted to say inculcated, but that's not the word I want, involved in this plan. So I hope that's clear, where I think this is a great movement, and I think we're also going to have to keep an eye on it to see that it's moving in the direction that we want it to, and that it's feasible. And, I so appreciate all the work that's gone in behind the scenes from John and from everybody else in the community.
Great. Thank you, Nell. So I want to open it up to the public, but we do have, I think, executive directors from the Chamber and the DBA and BDCC here. So I wanted to invite any of you, if you had a comment or a question to make first. And if you're just here to hang out, that's okay too. All right, Kate.
Hi, Kate Traskis, representing Downtown Brattleboro Alliance. So I'm thrilled that we are convening and talking about Next Gen Brattleboro and thinking about the future of this town. I absolutely agree with Nell's comment that there is a very strong commitment to this very special place. We have the opportunity at DBA to work with people who bet on Brattleboro every day. They show up every day as business owners or as community partners, and it's really inspiring. There's also the reality that several of our businesses have been on Main Street for decades, and that if we aren't actively trying to create a pipeline of entrepreneurs and of new young energy into our town, that story is told across the nation of downtowns that are boarded up. And so it's very important, I think, that we keep the intentionality behind wanting to see a future for ourselves that is based on lifting up younger people younger than me, that will be the future of this town. I also think that, again, what John was saying, that the assets that we have here, we score so high in lifestyle, right? So there's the Vermont brand, but even within that, here in Brattleboro, there's a great quality of life. And I think the more people that are invited into this community to take part in that, to experience the arts and culture resources, the trails, the farms, the more that they will want to stay and find their place here. So, getting out and sharing that story and creating that story from Brattleboro out, I think, is also going to be a really powerful piece to this that we're excited to really grab onto. So, thank you for your leadership in this, John, and I look forward to continue being an active partner.
Great, thank you, Kate. Adam or Kate?
Hi there, Adam Gould, Executive Director of the Brattleboro Development Corporation. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in favor of the Next Gen initiative. Since this started and through some of the public events, it's been very clear the increased understanding, appreciation for the role that community and economic development plays in the vibrancy of the community. So that's been clear. It's been really great to see the spotlight that Next Gen has shined on many of the assets in the community, and how those assets can be put to use. It reminds us, it reminds our neighbors of what's possible, what the future could be. So, as the board explores what its role in the future of the economy can be, we're eager to play a role in supporting the board and the municipality in that work. We, under our relationship and contract with the state of Vermont, and also we have a USDA-funded community capacity building program. With those two different programs, we work with communities across southern Vermont. And in several of those, they've elected to have paid economic and community development staff. And what we see in those communities is they have identified what their targets are. Either strategies, a set of priorities, something for the staff to work towards. What we also see in those communities is really robust communication between the towns, the folks working in economic development, their downtown organizations, their chambers, other business support groups, BDCC. And they will invite us in and say, hey, we're working on something, we need some assistance in identifying or procuring resources, in identifying national best practices, things that they can't easily grab, that we have that experience that can bring and support whatever it is their priorities or strategy is. So, John and I have talked about this, and I'm happy to remind this group that those are services available to the board, to the municipality, be it one-on-one, in a group setting, whatever works best for the town. We're here to support that and to look forward to our continued together.
Great, thank you, Adam. Kate?
The other Kate, Brattleboro Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I echo everything Kate and Adam just said, and I think anybody who has been going to these two meetings, you sit in a room and you listen and you realize there's so many things that happen in our community that we don't even know about. And I think that was like the special thing when you get in a room with a whole bunch of people and go, we have a circus school, we have an Olympic-size ski jump, and we have Amtrak, and we have Boston, and we have New York, we have all this stuff, and we forget that. And I think that's an important thing that we have to remind ourselves. I want to just point out, and Kate used the word intentionality, I think, or maybe John did, that there's for somebody who hasn't sat through the many presentations that some of us have sat through, not just this year, but like starting last year, there's actual real math behind this, and I just want people out there to understand that this isn't just a pie in the sky, 802 by 2032, isn't that cute? There's actually real math behind it that you can get from the Vermont Department of Labor, or there's a Vermont Futures Project that actually shows that it's not just Brattleboro that needs more people, it's Windham County that needs more people, and it's Vermont that needs more people. So being intentional in what we're doing, I think, is really, really important. So that's for you folks and for the people out there listening. I will say one thing, kind of chamber, kind of person that lives in Brattleboro. It's not just John's role to take part in this. You folks as a select board have a role in economic development in our community. And again, this is where I straddle the chamber and being a taxpayer, and Nell was talking about it. People who want to move here or live here or set up a business here, they look at things like what the property tax rate is. They look at what the cost of a house is. And that's where you folks come in, because the policy on that starts with you. So it's not just up to the town manager to move economic development forward in our town. It's actually up to you folks as a select board. We have a great planning department that is really helping with the zoning and everything. But I don't want you folks, the 5 of you, to lose sight of the really important and vital role that you play. It's not just up to our town manager. He needs your help, and we all need your help. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Kate. Any other comments from the public? Gemma?
Hi, Gemma Seymour, and I'm going to say at this time, member of the Brattleboro Planning Commission. I have to ask why there doesn't seem to have been any effort at all to involve the Brattleboro Planning Commission in this initiative. This is, after all, what the Planning Commission is chartered to do. The Planning Commission and the Planning Department are currently in the end stages of producing the new 2026 town plan, which is required by law to be adopted this year, and this initiative has not been part of that conversation. When I read the goals of the Next Generation Brattleboro Initiative, I question how the figure and the time frame of 802 by 2032 was chosen. It seems like a completely arbitrary figure chosen simply because it's Vermont's area code. When we look at population statistics, we see that the population of Brattleboro has been more or less flat within a margin of about plus or minus 500 people since before 1950. From 1950 to 2020, the population of Brattleboro has grown by less than 5.8%. In that same time period, the population of Burlington has grown by 35%, the population of Vermont by 70%, and the population of the United States by a factor of about 2.2. Brattleboro's population in the 2020 decennial census was 12,184. Adding 802 people to that number to bring it to 12,986 would be growth of about 6.6%, more or less maintaining the same abysmal growth rate that has prevailed for over 70 years and which is primarily responsible for Brattleboro's stagnant economy. In short, 802 people is nowhere near enough. I'm going to try and cut this a little shorter because I, unsurprisingly, have a lot to say on this subject. Had Brattleboro's population grown at the same rate as Burlington's, Brattleboro's population would now be 15,549. If it had grown at the rate of Vermont, it would be 19,615. If it had grown at the rate of the national population, it would be 25,342. The Brattleboro CDP, the urban core of the town, which currently holds 7,352 residents and 4.2 square miles. The rest of the town of Brattleboro holds just 4,832 people in 27.88 square miles of land. If the CDP were to grow its density to match that of Burlington's 10 square miles, the Brattleboro CDP alone would have a population of 18,227 people, an increase of 10,875 people. This is the scale of the growth that we need to sustainably thrive. When it comes to exactly whom we should be trying to attract to this town, well, it seems logical to want to attract younger people and younger families. The fact of the matter is that it's the older generations who own the majority of the wealth in this country. People are living longer, people are looking for places where they can age gracefully, and they have the wealth to fund it. Businesses go where the customers are. Attracting older people to this town is a crucial part of attracting younger workers and entrepreneurs to the town who will be able to provide the services that aging people both require and desire. They're also much more likely to be able to bequeath property to the next generation, and as that generation builds the infrastructure needed to support aging and comfort, they themselves will be attached to what they have built and wish to avail themselves of it in turn and in time. I'll leave it at that for now, but there's so much more that needs to be said about this, and I really hope that the Select Board, the town manager, and the people involved in Next Generation Brattleboro will make an effort to involve the Brattleboro Planning Commission. Again, we are a chartered organization in this town. This is what we are here to do, and I have not received one single communication from this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. And if you have more information you didn't have time to share, please email it to us.
I will. Thank you.
I think, as John has said, this is an evolving thing, and we know that we've left people out, and we'll certainly discuss what you said. So thank you. Any other comments in the room or online? Oh, yes, Bill.
Bill Harvey, Brattleboro, Vermont. I really appreciated Jenna's comments, and I'm going to follow up by saying that I have lived here since 1952. And during that period of time, I've seen housing in Brattleboro really grow. Black Mountain Road condos, Morningside apartments, Melrose Terrace, Westgate Apartments, the expansion of West Brattleboro Trailer Park, Brookside Apartments. As a matter of fact, I think in Brattleboro that it's had a stagnant growth in population. We've had about as much as a 30% growth in housing. So I want to tell a little story. Stories are fun. For a while, my wife and I underwent financial stress, as many couples do. And I lived in a Westgate apartment for a while I saved up money to buy my own home, which I did. But while I was there, this very interesting story happened to us. We had some friends of ours who came over to play cards and so on and share a pizza, ask us and say, "Bill, what's the matter with you guys? Why don't you get a divorce? Don't you realize that if you get a divorce, you'll get the WIC program for your kids, you'll get the tooth fairy," and they went on with a list of stuff that the government provided for people who got a divorce. They even went as far as said, "Look, we just bought a travel trailer with the money we saved by getting a divorce. That doesn't mean you don't love each other anymore. That just means you can go your own separate way and get a whole lot of money from the state." And I found myself in competition with the state. That here I am, I'm only worth $10,000, $20,000. The state's worth billions, millions of dollars. Who's better to protect them? Who's better to provide for them than the state? And what's happened in Brattleboro isn't a housing shortage. It's a lack of traditional family values. More and more in Brattleboro area, and I know this is throughout our country, you have a husband living in one house, and the wife living in another house, and the kids sharing couches wherever they can find them. So I think that it would really be real long range. I certainly aren't going to do it tomorrow or within the next 50 years. But if our town and if our state started to reestablish traditional family values, you wouldn't have a housing shortage. You wouldn't have a drug problem. You wouldn't have people living in tents. And I know that's awfully tough to say. And I don't expect great and mighty things to come of that, because let's face it, it's just not politically correct to get involved in those areas. But I think it needs to be said, and I feel better that you've listened to me and that I've said it.
Thank you, Bill. All right, any other comments in the room? Online? Yes, no.
I'm going to step into the mouth of the beast there. I appreciate your comment, Bill, and I appreciate the sentiment behind it. And I think I'd just like to clarify that things like traditional family values can hold a lot of connotations for a lot of different people, and that support and a healthy environment for individuals or for children does not have to, it's not intertwined with a man and a woman being married and raising their child together. I don't disagree that having supports for young families to come and settle, and especially for young people, I think a lot of young people and a lot of people in their teen years fall through cracks. You know, I could tell my own stories, but I would just like to flag, I think in response to that Brattleboro has a lot of really vibrant communities in it, one of them being the queer community, and there's a lot of queer young families that come here because of a reputation and to raise their families here. And that's a really valuable part of our community too. And I think the shared sentiment there is that we want to be a place that supports people to be able to come here, move here, afford to live here, and raise their children here in the most healthy environment for that.
Thank you, Nell. Any other comments in the room or on Zoom?
I'd love to add something, Chair.
Yes, please.
I am very grateful for everyone for the comments at the table, and I also want to say that this economic development next gen momentum is a welcome. So, not meant to exclude. Tom has been, I think, read in on some of the sort of side but yes, that's like thank you. So thank you for saying, hey, we weren't invited. We want to come to the table. That's what we need to hear. So I appreciate that. And for more of everybody out there in Brattleboro, come to the table. Let's talk about this stuff. Let's work together. And that's all.
Great, thank you. So I'd like to move to the quick, I think, second half of the conversation, which is if there are two members of the board who would like to sort of be more directly involved in contact with John about this. I'm seeing Nell and Peter raising their hands. So that sounds pretty good. That's two people. We're not going to do a motion or anything like that, but as long as all of us are fine, head nod style, looks like we are.
That's great. That's really helpful. And I would just add to that, Oscar, that I'd be looking to the three of you as well to contribute where we can on this without violating open meeting law.
Of course.
Okay.
So if committees are emerging or working groups,
exactly,
and you need, it would be great. I think we'd all like to be included.
Yeah, I mean, I have more questions too, but I think we could probably discuss some of those at the select board retreat. Mm-hmm. I'd like to, get a sense of the timeline for this, and is it? I know 2032 is what 6 years from now, but is it going to? Are you envisioning this being a multi-year commitment of your time at 15%, or kind of just get a better sense of what you're thinking, and either now or later?
Yeah, I think leaving that until the retreat for now makes sense, if that's okay with you. Great. Okay, well, thank you also to everyone who came and spoke. And I think we'll move on to our next and final agenda item, because unbelievably we're not at 2 hours yet. And I have some hopes that this may not be that hard. So, agenda item E, motions and preparations for annual town meeting. John, will you give us the thumbnail of what we're trying to do?
Yeah, every year before town meeting, the board sort of figures out who the moderator will call on the select board to make the motions at town meeting. So we'd just love to get your thoughts on who should make each of these motions so that we can publish that for the town moderator and he can run a good meeting. So in the past, it's sort of just the board has sort of sat at town meeting in the order that they kind of do here, and then they've done it on a rotational basis so that it's kind of easy to follow. But you guys can do it however you want, but that's just what they've done in the past.
Okay, great. Thank you. So quick question, are there any motions here that must be read by the chair?
No, I would say not.
Okay, great. So I have a suggestion based on what I've heard, and maybe we can use that as the starting point. I'd like to read and speak to first the budget article, which is Article 7. And I did have a request from Nell to be the one to speak on the two finance, what is it now, Advisory Budget Committee Articles 13 and 14, because I think you felt that you would be able to explain that context well. So my suggestion is that if that's okay with everybody, we can work backwards from there and just come up with a rotation for the two of us that fits us into those slots, which would be me speaking on 2, 7, and 12. Nell would speak on 13, 14, 8, and 3. And that would still be every 5. And then that would leave 3 other slots in the rotation for anyone else to take at their pleasure. And of course, if anyone else has a request for something they would like to read the motion on, we can do that too. So, how does that strike people?
Sounds good.
I say we go in order of height. Thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes a difference. I think I guess if you're passionate about speaking to an article, then fine. With the understanding that we're just looking to the body to make the decision.
If I can, my thought process is that while we do often have really lengthy public conversations leading up to the motions that are on here, sometimes people don't follow them or haven't followed all of them, and I'm not sure if it will get sufficiently fleshed out in the info session. So my hope was just that from both having sat on the Finance Committee and having been particularly interested in the conversations surrounding how we are formatting, how we're trying to work to include, represent what were our TM committees going forward. I thought I would be able to provide good context in introducing that motion that would hopefully limit some perhaps confusing or back and forth conversation on the floor. Obviously not with the goal of limiting like democratic discussion, but with the goal of more clarity from the get-go.
I think that makes sense to me. So if we were to do this, we basically need the 3 other board members to just pick preliminary motion 1, 2, and Article 1, and then would speak to every 5th article, or would read the motion for every 5th article after that. And I'm making notes as we go. I'm not hearing objections, so is there anyone who'd like to lead us all off with preliminary motion number 1?
I'll take it.
Okay, so this would put Peter at 1, and then Article 4, 9, and then 15, after Nell does 2.
I'm getting confused.
Okay.
Peter's doing preliminary motion 1 and 2?
Sorry, I apologize. So what I'm suggesting is...
It makes no difference to me. Again, it's just a function of getting the words out. So I'm happy to do the first 2 just to keep what you've already done.
And it's about media. And they're about media. So
Oscar just said the word 2. He didn't mean number 2.
Yes, sorry. I made that more confusing than it needed to be. What I want to come out of this with is an order where each of us, Nell reads 1, then Peter reads 1, then I read 1, and we go in order. So if Peter takes preliminary motion number 1, and then later, and then takes regular Article 4, regular Article 9, etc., we'll get into that rotation.
That's fine.
So what we would need is then just Amanda and Isaac to take one of either preliminary motion number 2 or Article 1 and then slot into the rotation that way.
I can do Article 1.
Okay, regular Article 1. So that would be 1, 6, 11, and that, we don't do 17, right? Other business?
No, there's other.
Okay, so that would be it for Isaac, and that
1, 6, and 11?
Yes.
Okay.
And that would put Amanda in at 2, 5, 10, and 16. So I can go through that in order if people like.
Okay, and then there are a few remaining.
Well, here, so
3,
so
8.
yes, so
10.
Nell and I would fill those in our rotation. So let me read you what I have and you tell me what you think. So it would go Peter and then Amanda for prelims 1 and 2.
I feel like Peter should just do both. No, it doesn't work that way? Okay.
It's up to you guys.
It's not a problem, but I just,
I'll do it.
it'll get us into the rotation if we do it.
Okay, you got it.
And then Articles 1 through 4 would be Isaac, Oscar, Nell, Peter. 5 through 7 would be Amanda, Isaac, Oscar. 8 through 12, Nell, Peter, Amanda, Isaac, Oscar. And then 13 through 16, Nell does 2. 13 and 14, then Peter and Amanda.
Or what about 17?
17 is just other business, so we don't have to read anything.
Okay. Who has number 10?
10 is Amanda.
Oh, great. All right.
And like Peter said, it's really, we just need somebody to read the words at each point and get it on the floor.
Okay.
Does this sound plausible? Acceptable?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so what do we need, John? Motion?
Motion, yep.
Okay. If someone would care to make a motion, let's see.
So the motion is to accept the 2026 annual town meeting as presented, with the board action to assign select board members to read each motion at the annual town meeting as presented by the chair.
Well, so I think we've completed the board action.
Yep.
Okay.
And all we need to do is a motion. Does as presented work here?
Yep.
Okay. So you can just do as presented.
Is public comment.
Can I fix one mistake I see?
Please. That would be great.
Under
Can you do it at the mic? Yes, and I forgot to ask for public comment, so I'll do that too.
Just to make sure things are correct, that you're voting on something correct. Article 15, in the first paragraph, it says Felicity Rattay, which is, I believe, her name because I worked with her. But in the next article down, next paragraph, it says Felicity Rattle.
Yep.
Mm.
Thank you.
Why am I not seeing this?
Article 15.
Just a typo.
It's a typo.
Oh, it's fixed in mine.
Yeah, it's fixed in mine.
So it
too.
must have gotten fixed in the backups halfway
maybe.
through. But thank you, Heidi. That's great. Okay, yes. My apologies. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. Amanda, would you care?
So, did I successfully make the motion that
Let's
was
make it
appropriate?
again.
You
So
wanted
just,
okay.
just here and don't go into the board action part, I would say.
I move to accept the motions for the 2026 annual town meeting as presented.
Great. Amanda has moved to accept the motions for the 2026 annual town meeting as presented. All board members in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
That is 5-0.
And I have one thing, I don't know if it's a point of information.
Mhm.
In the consent agenda, is it at all an issue that we have the No Town or No Kings rally listed as Sunday, March 28th, when it's Saturday, March 28th? So correct date, wrong day of the calendar.
Let's flip pages and think about it. I think given the action we took was to approve the application.
To approve the application.
Fantastic.
I think we're good.
Thank you.
But thank you for noticing that. Okay, well, unbelievably, we've come to the end of regular business, so there's one motion left.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Peter's motion to adjourn. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Thank you.
8 p.m.
And board, there are possibly some things to sign, so stick around.